Sonny Melendrez, Sonny Radio, sonnyradio.com.
Hello, it's Sonny Melendrez, and welcome. You have found the positive side of the radio spectrum. This is the Sonny Melendrez Show, and every week we strive to bring you entertainment and inspiration through storytelling, fascinating guests, exclusive celebrity interviews, and it's all delivered with lots of enthusiasm. And we come to you from our 12-story, beautiful studios, in fact, overlooking downtown San Antonio and our beautiful international airport. We hope you will visit soon. As always, we're brought to you by Ideal Precision Roofing in San Antonio. Now, I had a little bit of a conversation recently that really opened my eyes even more to the idea of what could happen on your roof when there's a hailstorm and also a windstorm. That's right. It's not just about hail damage, it's also about wind damage. And what happens is sometimes the wind is so severe that the shingles will flap up and actually bend. And if you notice, maybe from the ground up, if your naked eye, you can actually see a little bit of a crease in any of your shingles. It's possible that you have that wind damage. But you don't want to take any chances. Call Ideal Precision Roofing. They'll give you a free inspection. You'll have a peace of mind. And believe me, if it comes to the point where you have to call your insurance company, they'll do it all for you. In fact, in many cases, it's all done in a matter of days. So call Ideal Precision Roofing at 210-485-1553. That's 210-485-1553. Or visit them at idealprecisionroofing.com. And now, on with the show.
Sonny Radio, sonnyradio.com, San Antonio.
Well, my guest today is somebody who I actually would take an hour to introduce him properly because he has so many hats that he wears. In fact, we have a hat rack outside of the studio so he could actually take his hats off and put them on the rack. It's completely full. Kerry Balderrama is an actor, he's a producer, he's a director, he is a writer. He has so many great projects, and the best part of this whole story is that he lives right here in San Antonio. Kerry, welcome to the show.
Sonny, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. First of all, I want to thank you for your service because you were in Afghanistan.
Yes, I was.
Tell me about that.
I was in the military for 8 years, and I was a paratrooper. I was stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, with the 82nd Airborne Division, and I was spent 12 months
that is
during
impressive.
Operation Enduring Freedom.
Again, well, thank you for your service. How do you go from being a paratrooper to all the things that I mentioned in the entertainment industry?
Sure. So, when I've always been in the arts ever since I was very young. And after I got out of the military, I wrote a short story based off of soldiers coming back from Afghanistan suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. And it was a story that really stuck with me, and it really became kind of a mini screenplay, which then led to me writing my first feature film, which was called Garrison. And so we wrote it, I wrote it here in San Antonio, and then we ended up casting it with a whole bunch of local actors. Okay,
I have to back you up because
Sure.
Somebody listening right now saying, well, I've had an idea for a film or whatever, but still, when you write, how did you even know how to write a screenplay?
Right. Well, I really didn't. I kind of went and bought a whole bunch of books on how to write screenplays and guerrilla filmmaking and things of that nature to really understand, how to be able to do this structure. But, in the universe just wanted to make sure that it did happen because, we did this on a no budget.
And who's we?
So myself and my acting friends. We kind of all just got together. No one had ever done a feature film before. No one really knew what was going on. And, we made this movie, and then festivals started accepting it.
It's like the Little Rascals.
Absolutely.
How you didn't know what you couldn't do.
Right. Right. No, well, I mean, I think that, a lot of times in this industry, it is that naivete that allows you to do these things. Because, I mean, of course, looking back in retrospect of everything I know now, there is no way that I would have told myself that this will go with the resources and the knowledge that I had at that time, which was zero.
That's amazing. Just amazing. All right, so you do Garrison.
Yes.
And you take it to the festivals.
Mm-hmm.
Explain how that works.
Sure. So, once you're done with your feature film, you just, you submit it to festivals from, all across the country. I mean, people.
And how do you do that? Is there like a website that you go to?
Sure. The main one that I was using at that time was called Without a Box, and it's like a film festival site. They have another one now called Film Freeway, and those are pretty much the two that you go on there, and they list every single festival that's throughout the world, right, that you can submit to.
And contact people, and then you just go to that festival and say, here's my feature film.
Right. Well, I mean, at that time, you just put in a copy of your DVD, and you mail it off, and you light candles, and do a rain dance, and, hope that they accept you.
Very important. You light candles. Uh-huh. How did you do all that? We lit so many candles.
Tons of candles.
Finally, one of them took. So then you had another incredible success with a movie called Sanitarium.
Yes. Sanitarium was just an incredible experience, and we were able to get incredible talent like Malcolm McDowell, Lou Diamond Phillips, Robert England, Lacey.
And how did you approach those? I mean, you're here in San Antonio.
Yep.
How are you even getting their attention?
So all through a casting director, we had an amazing casting director, and I have a really funny story on how that came about, which was through Garrison. We get accepted into a festival in Muskogee, Oklahoma, called the Bare Bones International Film Festival. And I did not know where Muskogee was, but I said, you know what? They were kind enough to invite me to screen my movie. I'm going to go out and I'm going to enjoy this festival in Muskogee, Oklahoma. And there I met a gentleman by the name of Scott Marcano, who was the writer of the Pauly Shore, Stephen Baldwin movie called Biodome. And we became really good friends, and he was really good friends with a very talented casting director by the name of Scott David, who at that time, years later, was casting for Criminal Minds, CSI, all that good stuff. And we got him the script. He read it, and of course, he was very good friends with all the agents and Malcolm McDowell's agent and manager and Lou and everybody. So he was really able to get the script to all of that talent, and they responded with a yes.
Wow. Incredible. Now, would you say that was a kind of a fluke, or do you think it's because you were out there in the festivals meeting people?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it really is just networking as much as you can and working the festival circuit as much as you can, because you never know who you're going to meet. And a lot of times people will tell you that, it really is this grassroots and making those personal connections with people that will help you, get you to the next level.
Sure. And I would imagine that because around the time that you were starting, the internet starting to take hold, and that's been an incredible tool.
I mean, certainly. I mean, when I first started in 2006, it was, really the prosumer camera. Where the mini DV finally kind of came about. And so before then, you had to go get a film camera, right? You couldn't just go to your local Walmart and pick up, a prosumer camera and buy mini DV tapes and run off and go make a movie. It just wasn't in the cards for you. So, certainly with that invention, with Garrison, and then when we did Sanitarium is when the Red had come out, which is another fantastic camera, and we shot on the Red Epic, which just looked incredible. But we were able to do it at a fraction of the cost of what we would have to do to shoot on film.
All right, I want to switch gears here because I want to tell everyone about this amazing, not only an idea that you had, but also a historical structure that is just east of San Antonio called the Alamo City Studios. Tell me about this building, first of all.
Sure. So, back in the 80s and 90s, this facility was really used. All the Pretty Horses was shot there with Billy Bob Thornton and Matt Damon. Heaven Help Us with Ricardo Montalban and John Schneider was done back then. 8 Seconds, Knight Rider 2000. So, this facility really does have this rich history of having films and feature films and television shows.
It's a giant soundstage. From the outside, it looks like a warehouse.
Right, yes.
And it's not far from where I grew up. I grew up like 10 blocks away. In fact, I rode my bike by there and growing up and not knowing that this was going on, because this goes back to like the 50s and 60s, right?
Sure, absolutely. And then, of course, because of, film incentives decreasing within the state of Texas and certainly affecting San Antonio, it was about like the, end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s, when they kind of just like closed the doors and, turned it, really into a warehouse facility for storage. And it wasn't until about 15 years later that myself and a group of filmmakers kind of came in and started doing renovations on it and getting companies moved back in and started to get films shot back in the studio. And now here we are, almost 5 years later.
Amazing. And you're really kind of the geekdom of the film industry.
One of the easiest, just because of the success of geekdom, certainly our tagline to very easily describe it as a geekdom for film.
Yes, exactly. People understand that. All right, so I've gone to I've had the honor of having a tour of the facility. You've got, how many people would you say that actually work there because they have offices?
Sure.
And they're filmmakers.
So currently we have 30 companies that are inside the studio and about 100 collaborators that are inside the studio, and everything from sound designers to editors, special effects, makeup artists, actors, casting agencies, fashion designers. Really, it's if any clients or anybody's looking for something, from script to screen, we have it available.
Small or big.
Yes, we have it available.
And I heard that the NCAA used
for the Final Four. Absolutely, yes. They came in and they used all of ACS as their production hub. And so they would come in and they would have all of their trucks, parked outside. They would do all of their meetings, and then they would then descend upon the Alamo Dome, in Hemisphere Park for the Final Four. And it was just, and then they would come back and they would have to cut together all their little clips that they were doing to air, and it was just an incredible experience.
Impressive. And how great that you're just a few blocks from downtown.
Yes.
From where it's all happening.
So we say we're 2 blocks away from the Alamo.
Pretty amazing. All right, we're going to take a break, and we come back. We're going to hear more about Alamo City Studios and also about a filmmakers panel. If you are interested in any facet of filmmaking, you're going to want to know about this panel. It's coming up here in San Antonio, and we're going to get you there. So more to come with Kerry Balderrama on the Sonny Melendrez Show.
Sonny Radio, sonnyradio.com.
We're brought to you by Ideal Precision Roofing in San Antonio. So many people have really kind of put off the idea of calling someone about their hail damage, as I mentioned before, wind damage. You don't want to put that off. And what can happen is it can actually really be detrimental to the structure of your home. Of course, the thing is about roofing, you want to leave it to the experts. And that's what Ideal Precision Roofing does. Their experts will come in, they'll actually inspect your roof, and then assess the damage. If there's no damage, they'll tell you. If you don't have to call your insurance company and you can, rest assured that everything is okay, that's fine. Ideal will tell you that. But if not, they will then bring in your insurance company, and then the process begins. Ideal takes care of it all. All you have to do is make the call. And you can call them at 210-885-1553 for a free inspection. That's 210-485-1553. In fact, when you go to their website, idealprecisionroofing.com, you can actually chat online. So visit them at idealprecisionroofing.com and tell them Sonny Melendrez sent you.
You're listening to the Sonny Melendrez Show. Sonny's email address is sonny@sonnyradio.com.
All right, so Kerry, this is Kerry Balderrama, by the way. He wears the guy with all the hats. Kerry is a filmmaker here in San Antonio. Before we started this interview, you handed me what looks like an amazing, it's like a comic book, it's like a Mercedes of comic books. tell me about this. OBE.
Yeah, so OBE, which stands for Out of Body Experience, that was it's something that we've been working on for the past 2 years. My good friend Lee Duig, who's been doing Marvel for about 20 years, and his friend Christopher Allen, who's also draws for Marvel and DC. We kind of came together to be able to figure out this story concept on this dystopian future in San Antonio in 2062. Myself and my writing partner, C.M. Bratton, kind of outlined what we were going to do within the story, and off we went in creating this sci-fi dystopian detective thriller noir picture.
So what is your intention? What's the end game?
Sure. So, we created a graphic novel first. We do have several publishers that we're working with right now to get it on the stands for next year. But then we've also been using it as a pitching device. So we've so far met with HBO, with Amazon, with Netflix. So they're currently reviewing the material right now in consideration of turning it into a television series.
Is this when you went to L.A.?
Yes.
Recently?
Yes. Just 2 weeks ago. And then last week I was at the Austin Film Festival, where the script version of OBE was a finalist in that competition.
So it's great that you have something in hand to hand somebody.
Yes.
That gives them the idea of what this could be like if it was an animated feature, full-length.
Very much so.
Feature film.
Absolutely.
And the artwork is just phenomenal. In fact, I love the artwork of the city. Now I know what it's going to look like in 2062.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, we're all going to be here around that time. This is a wonderful example, Kerry, of somebody who is not only always creating, but always looking into the future. It's not by accident that you probably had this idea, but where do you think your ideas come from?
I think that it's really what you're passionate about. As far as for OBE, I've been having the idea for OBE for many, many years, and it's been something that's always stayed with me. With Sanitarium, it was my love for Hitchcock, Twilight Zone, Tales from the Crypt, and wanting to create that, and of course Garrison, which was very personal as well with my experience in the military. So, certainly anything that I do create, I have a very personal connection to. And I think that, certainly with indie filmmakers, I think that it's very important that they have that, because it's very difficult to be able to get these things off the ground. So you better love it with all of your hearts before you start.
Yeah. You just breathe it.
Absolutely.
What advice would you give to someone who, like I say, has always had an idea for any kind of production, whether it's TV, film, etc.? Where should they start?
There's certain avenues, and what's interesting, we're going to be talking about this at the panel for next week. But if you're a screenwriter, there are screenplay competitions. If you're a filmmaker, there are filmmaking competitions. And so I certainly think that the notion of, I have to move out to LA and I have to find an agent in order to be successful is not necessary currently in this climate. That you can go through the competition route and through that be able to get acknowledgement, be able to get some accolades, and ultimately be able to get a job. I
agree. And that's really the case in radio, as well as I just had an interview with a good friend of mine who, her name is Whitney Allen. She has a syndicated radio show that she does from her home, and it's on like 200 radio stations across the country. And that's the great thing about technology today with the web. All right, you're talking about the San Antonio Filmmakers Panel.
Yes.
And it's going to be at Alamo City Studios?
Alamo City Studios, Thursday, November 7th, from 6:30 to 9:30.
Give people an idea of where it's on Houston Street, but just whereabouts it is.
Sure. So it's right on the corner of East Houston and Chestnut. It's directly across from the Spaghetti Warehouse.
There you go. And 10 blocks from where I grew up. Now you know exactly where it is.
Exactly.
And it's $5.
It's $5.
And what can people expect?
So we have a great panel for this session. Our panelists include Danny Ramos. He just finished his feature film called Margarita Man with Danny Trejo, Jesse Borrego, Pepe Serna. Sebastian de la Cruz is in the film. Then we have another really great filmmaker named Will Shipley. He just finished his feature film called The Good Wolf. He was last year's San Antonio Film Grant recipient. Then we also have Allison Herrera. who is currently this year's San Antonio Film recipient through the grants, and Justin Rodriguez as well. And so, these are people that are right now in the mix. They are either just finished their feature films, currently finishing their films. And so you're just going to get a lot of insight into what is that process, how are they doing these things, and be able to just ask them questions on exactly that. I have this script, I just finished this film, or I'm in the middle of this film. What is your process? And you can really listen to the best of San Antonio filmmakers and letting them explain to you and show you what needs to get done.
That's fantastic. Now, how often do you have these panels?
We'll have them about every, I would say, 2 to 3 months. We'll have either a panel or a screening of some form, just to, always just staying active within the film community here in San Antonio.
Do you find that the people that you bring to the panel, people who live here, or do they come in from other places?
Most of the time, we try to keep it hyper local, and so we're certainly wanting to be able to showcase filmmakers, writers, actors that are here in San Antonio, that are working professionals, to be able to show people that that you can have a career here in San Antonio without having to leave San Antonio.
Do you find that a lot of people who grew up here, like we talked about Jesse Borrego, he went to Harlandale and then to Incarnate Word, come back here?
Absolutely. I mean, Jesse's such a great example and such a leader within the film community here in San Antonio, and very much so. I mean, he lives here, he operates here, Cine Studio, his company is here, but yet he travels all over the world, doing feature films and television and everything else. But he always comes back.
What is the youngest filmmaker that you've had to come to one of these panels?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, even going into the schools like SAC or at Harlandale, I mean, we've had high schoolers who have come to these panels, 16, 17 years old. We just did a essay showcase at the Draft House about 2 weeks ago, and the youngest filmmaker actually who was showcasing and on that panel was 16 years old.
Have you ever connected with, say, San Antonio College and young filmmakers there, and maybe done something on campus?
Absolutely. We just had Danny Ramos had just screened Margarita Man over at SAC, and to a sold out screening. And so certainly the level of involvement that we have with Northwest Vista and Incarnate Word is very high on our radar, and making sure that we're constantly showing the youth of San Antonio on what can be done. We're
airing this on Halloween weekend, and I was looking at the sanitarium. You talk about a scary movie. Have you always had an imagination that kind of skews toward the macabre?
It's wild in there. There's just for me. When we were creating the framework for Sanitarium, it was a lot of fun. Writing horror and writing thriller is a lot of fun, rather than when you're writing a drama.
Rather than experiencing it.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. With dramas, it's so serious, and you're getting into the depth of these characters and everything else. But then, within horror and thriller, you're like, okay, and then he turns the corner and his head gets chopped off, right? And so, it's always a really fun, interesting thing when you're in the writer's room kind of creating these types of stories.
Are there a lot of women in film more than used to be?
Certainly my writing...
Here in San Antonio.
My writing partner is Crystal Bratton, CM Bratton, and she's been my writing partner for the past 10 years. And so certainly I would say that there are a lot of incredible women filmmakers, that are here in the city, Allison Herrera being one of them, who will be on our panel. And so certainly I think that it's alive and well. Women within filmmaking here in San Antonio, absolutely.
What makes a good writing partner?
Somebody that you can just create good quality content with. In the end, I think that it's something that you're having to work with this person for months and months and months on end. And if the quality of the writing is good and the story comes out fantastic, then you have something there.
Wow. Well, you've got something here in San Antonio, and how wonderful that you have kept this dream alive. and hopefully we'll get more of the state funding back on track.
I'm hoping.
I've heard about that story, as well. The San Antonio Filmmakers Panel. This is at the Alamo City Studios, corner of Chestnut and East Houston. That's this Thursday, November 7th, 6:30, 5 o'clock. Be there or be square. Kerry, thank you so much. Congratulations on all your great success. And I can't wait to see OBE on the big screen.
We're hoping it's coming soon, and thank you so much for having me, Sonny.
My pleasure. Well, that is my amazing visit with my good friend Kerry Balderrama, producer, director, actor, writer. Who knows, we might all be cast members in one of his next productions. Okay? I'll make it happen. I'll be your agent. You can see Kerry's website, his Facebook page, all the links to what we talked about, especially the information about the San Antonio Filmmakers Panel by going to sunnyradio.com/show. That's sunnyradio.com/show. And also don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. Until next time, I'm Sonny Melendrez, reminding you that it all starts with an idea. See you next time. Bye-bye.